So hello everybody and welcome to another video. So today what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about getting started with Arduino. Namely, I'd like to look at figuring out how to get the integrated development environment installed, set up, and then using it to actually connect to an Arduino. So in terms of an agenda, what we'll talk about is first how to go ahead and obtain a specific version of the Arduino IDE. We'll then look at quote-unquote installing the IDE. I put install in quotes because as we'll see, it's really quite a simple procedure. We'll then take a look at setting up the IDE and then using that IDE to generate a very simple set of code or a sketch, and then finally using the IDE to upload that simple sketch to an actual Arduino. So with that, why don't we go ahead and get started. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is get the actual Arduino software suite or IDE. So just go ahead and fire up a internet browser here and just type in Arduino into Google. It should hopefully be the first hit, but if it's not, the address is actually arduino.cc. So I'm going to go here, and what I want to do is come here to software and go to downloads. What I'm looking for is, I actually don't want the web editor because I want to be able to edit on my machine without a web connection. So I'm going to actually download the entire IDE. And again, I don't actually want to download a installer file because we're going to see that Arduino actually has a nice feature that it will allow you to download just a compressed .zip file and then extract that to a specific location on your machine. And that's really, I think, the cleanest way to do it. It doesn't worry about messing with registry keys or anything like that on your machine. So what I could recommend doing here is just go ahead and click on the zip file for... and they also make a note here that a zip file is actually an excellent way if you're working on a machine that you don't have administrator rights to. You can just unzip this folder to any location, heck, even put it on a USB drive and run the Arduino IDE from that location here. So you can go here to get the latest version of it, but actually if you want an older or a very specific version of the Arduino IDE, if you just scroll down a little bit further down the page, you'll see previous releases. And if we just go ahead and click on this previous version of the current release, you'll see that if you scroll down, there are plenty of different older versions of the Arduino IDE that you're free to use. So for this example, I'm going to use version 1.6.12 here. So I'm going to come here to the Windows here. And again, I don't want the installer. I want the actual Windows, which is going to give me the zip file. So if I just click on that, it'll get you sent to a page that asks you to contribute here. So I'm just going to click on just download. Okay. And here we go. It's going to download this file here. And as we can see, it's just a .zip file here. Perfect. So let's give this a couple minutes to finish downloading and we'll come back when it's complete. All right, great. So it looked like that finished. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. And as we see, it's just a zip file. So I'm going to go ahead and simply extract all of the files within that zip here. And again, this is a little bit boring. It might take a couple of minutes. So I'll pause the video and we'll come back when it's completed. All right, great. So it looks like that finally finished extracting here. So if we take a look inside here, we'll see that we've got all of the files here, including the Arduino IDE. So at this point, we're ready to, again, quote unquote, install this. So the install process is actually ridiculously easy and clean. So all I need to do here is let's just go ahead and cut all of these files and we'll put them wherever we'd like on our hard drive. So for example, I'm going to come in here to program files x86 and I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in here. Now, you may get this note that you're going to need administrator permissions to move this folder here. So luckily I have administrator rights on my machine, so I'll just click continue. If you don't, you're just going to want to put that folder somewhere on your machine where you are allowed to paste things here. So this is what's so darn great about the quote-unquote install process. This is it. It's done. We haven't written any registry keys or done anything more to the machine, so everything is nice and self-contained. The one extra bit that we're going to do here is let's come into this folder here. We are going to make what's called a quote-unquote portable version of the Arduino IDE. So what this is basically this portable installation is going to ensure that all of the files and directories that are necessary to get the Arduino software IDE to work on this computer will be self-contained in this folder here. So it makes everything very clean and yeah, self-contained. It's actually ridiculously easy to do. All you need to do is, again, come into this top level directory of where you pasted all your files, create a new folder, and call it portable. And what you're going to see is a lot of settings and other files are going to be created right here in this folder here. And everything then is contained within this Arduino 1.6.12 folder. So that's it. We've basically installed the program here on our machine. So let's take a look at maybe using it. All right, so using the IDE is actually really simple. All we need to do is just double click and launch this executable. But before we do that, let's actually go ahead and start another instance of File Explorer. Maybe I'll put one of these here on the right and this one over here on the left. Let's come to this same location that we put this in, C Program Files Arduino here. And I want to open up this portable folder so we can see what happens here. So right now this portable folder is empty, but now let's come back over here to this exe, and first I'm going to try to run this just by double clicking on the executable, okay? And we're going to get this notice here that there's some features that we may need to let through the firewall, so I'll go ahead and allow access. And here we are. Everything is ready and should be ready to go. You see that as soon as we started it up, some preferences and something called a sketchbook was created inside that portable folder. So again, what the system is doing is it's keeping everything within this one folder. So it's not putting things weird places like here in your documents or user files elsewhere on your computer. Everything is nice and self-contained. Now, some people may encounter an error when you try to double click and just run on this executable. I've seen some instances where there's errors saying something like Arduino cannot run because it could not create a folder to store your sketchbook. Basically, as we saw, when you start up this executable, it creates what's called a sketchbook here in this portable folder. Now, if you remember, that portable folder is in we put it in C Program Files x86, which may be a folder which requires administrator rights to edit, right? To create folders and things like that. So basically, if you run into that problem, all you need to do here is instead of just merely double clicking on this Arduino.exe executable, right click on this thing and basically go ahead and run it as an administrator. That way it will have elevated permissions and it will be able to create this sketchbook within the portable folder, which is within this administrator protected folder. Okay, so anyway, that's just a quick little word of warning here. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the IDE. So I'm just going to come over here. We'll make this a little bit bigger so we can see a few things at once. And let's take a look at customizing this a little bit. All right, so to change some of the preferences here in the Arduino IDE, we're just going to come up here to File, Preferences. And as you can see, there's a lot of different things that we can go ahead and change. So we noticed that the font here is a little bit small. Given the resolution of my screen, maybe what we want to do is we can bump this up. So we can increase the font size. There's all different things that you can change. And also, it's also telling us that you could actually look here in this preferences.txt file, which is inside the portable folder, right? It's this file right over here. You could actually even open that up and edit even more things if you want. So to keep things simple, let's just keep it with a simple change of increasing the font size. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK. And as you can see, this is now a little bit more readable. So that's how we can change some of the preferences in the Arduino. Let's think about finally getting this thing connected to an actual Arduino and writing some code for it. So with that, why don't we exit out of the screen capture and we'll take a look at the actual Arduino board that we're going to be using in this example. All right, so here's the Arduino board that we're going to be using in this example. So this is an Arduino Due here. It's one of the more interesting Arduino boards. Most of them run at 5 volts. This one runs at 3.3 volts. We'll take a look at that a little bit later, and we'll have a couple other videos talking about some of the other features of this Due, but all I want to show today is that it's just an Arduino board here, that it actually has 2 USB ports. One of them, the one further up here, is the native USB port, and we're actually going to be using this programming port here to connect to the computer. So what we want to do right now is get this hooked up to the computer and see if Windows will install some drivers for us automatically here. So in order to do this, what we're going to need here is, as you can probably imagine here, is just a USB cable here. The full-size USB is going to go hooked into the computer here, and then the micro end is going to hook into the Arduino. So let me go ahead and just hook in the micro end to the Arduino here and get it ready, but I'm not going to actually plug it into the computer right now because I would like to go back to the screen capture mode on the computer, and we can take a look at the device manager and see what happens when we plug this into the machine. The other thing I maybe want to bring up right now here is when you're hooking up your Arduino to the computer, make sure you're using a good USB cable. A lot of times I've seen people go ahead and just grab any old USB cable, and if they think they see it's got a micro end, this must work. But a lot of these are for like just charging your cell phone or things like that. So the USB cable might not actually have all the wires necessarily for data transfer. Some of them might just have wires for power and ground so you can charge your phone. So if that's the case, it definitely won't work for your Arduino. So again, make sure you get a good cable which has all the wires for the full USB connection. So with this, what I'm going to now do is basically take this over to the computer. I'm going to plug it in to my USB port for the first time, and we'll see what happens. But again, like I said, I would like to pause the camera here, and we'll turn on the screen capture on the laptop just so we can see what Windows thinks is going to happen when we make that first initial connection. All right, so we're back on the computer, and let's go ahead and start up the device manager. So I'll just hit Windows and type in device manager. Here it is. Because I would like to see what is going to happen when I plug this in for the first time. So let's go ahead and just maximize this here. And what I'd like to draw your attention to is, you notice right now I don't have any groups here that say COM and LPT. But what I'm going to do right now is plug in the Arduino for the first time into the USB of the computer. So here we go. You get ready. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. It's setting up, and you see here we get this extra entry in the device manager that says port, common LPT. So here it is. It says USB. Oh, here it goes. It says it's ready to go. So in this case, it sure looks like Windows 10 was smart enough to install the actual Arduino Due programming port driver, and it's done this on COM5. Now, on some other machines, particularly older ones, it might not do this properly here, and you may have to install the drivers manually here. So maybe I'll just bring to your attention, let's come back to the Arduino folder here. There's a folder called drivers here where all of the drivers necessary for various Arduinos are going to be located here. So if you're using a different Arduino like a Mega or an Uno and you don't get Windows to intelligently install the driver when you first plug it in, you may need to point it to this folder and do a manual installation. So I'll leave a link in the description of this video for a tutorial that shows exactly how to do that. Luckily, we didn't need to do it in this case, so let's just go ahead and continue on. So I'll go ahead and close this folder. I don't think we need the device manager any longer, so we can go ahead and close him. Instead, let's come back over here to our sketch here. All right. And we're going to notice here that back here in the Arduino IDE, it realizes that, hey, we had an Arduino Due plugged in, which is actually a slightly non-standard board. So we're actually going to have to install a package to be able to write and to upload code to this particular Arduino. So let's take a look how to do that. All right, so to go ahead and do that, we're just going to go click on this handy link that says install the package to use our particular Arduino. And what this pulls up is actually the board's manager here, and it identifies the specific package that we need here for our particular board. If you'd like to see another way to get to this, let's go ahead and close this. You can also get to that same location here by going here to Tools, Board, Board Manager. And you see we get all of the different packages that are available here. So this link here is just going to type in a couple of keywords up here in the search that's going to narrow it down to the specific board that we want here. So let's use that because I think that's the easiest way to go about filtering it. So here we go. We find the package that we're looking for here. So I'm going to click here. It's a little, the UI is a little bit odd here. So you have to click here and then click on install. But before I do that, let's come back over here to our Arduino folder here where we installed it, and I'm going to open up the libraries section here, and let's go ahead and hit install. And we're going to see that this is going to download the package that we need, as well as any other tools that are necessary to upload code to our Arduino Due. So again, this might take a couple of minutes, so I'll go ahead and pause the video and we'll come back when it's finished. All right, we're back, and it looks like that package installed completely here. We can see it says installed, so I'll go ahead and close this board manager. Well, before we close it, let's actually come back. I apologize. I pointed you to the wrong folder to look at. So let's actually go up a level here and come into our portable folder, the one we created earlier. And now you see that there is this folder called packages that was created here. So if we look into here to packages, Arduino, hardware, you see here is the package that we just downloaded and installed. So it put this package as well as this set of tools here that we need to write to our board here. So that should be ready to go. So let's come back over to the Arduino IDE. We don't need the board manager anymore because everything is ready to go. So let's go ahead and close this, and we're ready to go ahead and write some code. And also, I guess I forgot to mention that whole process of installing the package that we need for our Arduino, we only needed to do that because we had a somewhat non-standard Arduino board of an Arduino Due. If you're using something like a Mega or an Uno, it's very likely that that package is already installed and comes with the IDE, and so you're not going to have to go through that process of finding the package you need through the board package manager here. So, all right, so enough of that. Let's go ahead and get some code here. So we could write some code here from scratch here, but what's really nice about the IDE here is if you come up here to File, Examples, you'll see that there's a whole plethora of different examples of how to get things working on the Arduino. So we don't need to go through each one of these in detail, but I'm going to come here to O1 Basics, and I'm going to come here to the Blink example. So if I just click on this, it will open the code necessary to basically blink the Arduino. So let's just maximize this so we can see the entire code listing here. It's actually really simple. This is the entire setup here. So we see, I'll let you read this, and you can basically see that what this is going to do is it's going to make the LED, the built-in LED on board the Arduino. So our board actually has a tiny little LED that's embedded on it. And it's going to basically turn on for a second, and then off for a second, and then on for a second, and then off for a second, and repeat that forever. So this code looks pretty good. I sure hope it's syntactically correct since it was included. So let's think about just pushing this up to the board right now. So a couple things that we need to do before we get going. Let's come up here to Tools, Board, and we need to pick the specific board that we're using. So again, here's all of these sort of quote-unquote normal Arduinos here. So right now it's actually on the wrong Arduino. It's on this Arduino Genuino Uno. So what I need to do here is let's scroll down, and actually our Arduino Due is actually a little bit further down here. And again, we see that we've got two examples. If you remember, we actually plugged ours into the programming USB port, not the native USB port. So that's the one I'm going to select. And finally, if you remember when we went back to our device manager, we saw what COM port this was on. So I believe if we come here to Tools, Port now, let's go here to COM5. That should be the Arduino. So there we go. I think we've set up the code. We've got the code written here. It was provided by us. We've now set up, installed the package that we need to push all this code up to our board. So at this point, we should be able to just click on the upload button and everything should be hunky-dory. So let's go ahead and hit upload. And it's compiling here. And down here in the bottom of the IDE, we're going to see some diagnostics during the compilation process here. So you're going to see, let's maybe make this a little bit bigger here so we can see. It's working, it's working, it's working, it's verifying it, and then it should flash it to the board. So let's give it a second. Aha, there we go. It was done. So now if we go to the Arduino, hopefully that LED is blinking at a rate of 1 Hertz effectively. So tell you what, let's exit the screen capture. I'll go back to the camera and we will leave everything running and plugged in and just check to see what's the status of that LED. All right, so here's the Arduino, and if we take a look at this, it's a little hard to see in the light. Let me go ahead and shield this a little bit. So you can see right there, labeled as L, you can see the little yellow LED blinking at a rate of 1 hertz. And what's actually even a little bit more fun here is that built-in LED is actually hooked up to pin 13 here. So if you notice, if I go ahead and take a jumper cable and put it into pin 13, I'll put another jumper cable, stick it here into the ground. We can actually watch this square wave coming out by hooking this up to an oscilloscope. So I'll hook up the signal to pin 13. I'll hook up ground to ground. And if you come here and look at the oscilloscope, yep, this looks about right. Let me change the sampling time here to maybe about 1 second per division here. And if you give this a second here to update, there we go. There's our square wave at about 1 hertz, and it looks like I have 1 volt per division. So again, you see this interesting phenomena here that this is actually kicking out a 3.3 volt square wave at 1 hertz. So this looks like everything's working. So perfect. So in conclusion, I think what we did here is hopefully this is enough to get everybody started and getting your Arduino and the IDE set up. So we looked at how to obtain a very specific version of the Arduino IDE. We then looked at how to quote-unquote install that, which was basically unzipping that compressed folder to a specific location on your machine and creating the portable folder within it. We then looked at how to set up the IDE in terms of, like we said, that portable folder, as well as how to modify some of the preferences, and also how to install any specific board packages that you might need to upload to your specific Arduino board. We then looked at how to use that IDE to connect to the Arduino and then upload a simple program or a sketch, which was then now running on the Arduino. So I hope this was useful, and with that, I hope to see everyone at a future video. Thanks. Bye.